Okay, so actually I should turn the music down a little bit. There we go. I look like crap, and I should shoot like the first part of today's segment first, but honestly I'm just too excited. So yeah, I don't know. For some reason, I mean, I always had a beef with my parents. Okay, yeah, interesting way to start the video. But they always seem to trip on the finish line. No offense, I don't really think they ever did it on purpose, but it seemed when things really came down to it, and even if something was really good, that you know, when it neared some point of significance near the end or whatever, they would totally screw it up. I've definitely had my fair share of screw-ups in the last little while, but I think I've gotten over it. When you just start again and try and go with what's good. What am I talking about? I don't know. But what I was excited about was, that looked really stupid, didn't it? Right, tripping on the finish line. So I guess the last step to getting things in place for the rest of my life. That sounds kind of finalic. That's not a word. Crap, I probably wasted like 2 minutes and I said absolutely nothing. Okay, so I haven't unpacked my apartment. Unpacked stuff in my apartment. Want to know how many boxes I've unpacked in 5 weeks since I moved in? Half of one out of like 8, 9? More like 8, because I travel so much that I have like 8 luggage pieces that kind of stack all into each other, and it's useless. I'm actually going to throw half of them out, and my mom's going to be super pissed, but too bad. I don't like keeping crap like that. But I do keep a lot of crap, so, and that's what I was excited about. But not useless bags that don't mean anything. Okay, so I'm going to grab stuff. I've been unpacking. I haven't even unpacked like all of it, so I guess I'll just go through different things. First, a guitar pick. Oh man, like I'm so bad at strumming and everything. Guitar just doesn't suit my small, female, precious hands. No, I'm joking, but they are small. So hopefully this will help me at least strum. Oh, this one will be huge. I'm sure it'll get me out of the doghouse that I've long forgotten about. This cable, really, I think it's actually just a standard, is it a 5 or 8 pin USB cable, but actually it's not standard because Canon's kind of an ass and makes proprietary cables. But see, this is my Canon SD600 I bought for Singapore? It must have been Singapore. I don't think I would have bought it for Italy. So Singapore 3-4 years ago. And on this camera, my family and I took a trip to Thunder Bay, also known as really freaking cold. But we went there in the summer, where my dad went to university and got his teaching degree. So we took a lot of really nostalgic photos, and I'd never been there before, and we only went like a couple years ago. And my mother's bothered me for ages to get the photos off the camera, but I could never find the cable I needed to attach this to the computer, so I'll be sending those to you shortly, I promise. Seriously. And I'll get to take a look at some old photos myself. Let's see, oh, there's just so much stuff. Alright, so they're about 2, it's still in my room. They're probably only, I'm not much of an autograph person, but I have 2 autographs. One is Yonsi's, if you know who he is. He's the lead singer of Sigur Rós. Hopefully I said that properly. No, I didn't, but whatever. I said it how most people say it. And the other one is from my idol dude, Nobuo Uematsu. He writes the Final Fantasy soundtracks, or he used to anyways. And they're just so good, and in a way, I always admire people who are everything that I could never be. And what he is, he's a natural. He's had almost no musical training. You can definitely tell he writes in a not very trained way, but the stuff he comes out with is just universally acknowledged as touching, melodic, emotive. I don't know. It's just anyway. So I went to a show and oh no. Well, it's just for the autograph anyway. I don't need to play the game anymore. So I went to this show called Distant Worlds to Seattle, and it turns out when I went there in the morning to take a bus to Seattle, it was sold out, and I was like, oh no, I can't even go to the show because there's no bus. But there was another bus a lot later, and I didn't actually know how long it would take the bus to get to Seattle. And we actually had to cross the border and all that, so you never really know how long it's going to take. It's kind of random. And so I got off the bus, ran to a taxi, and I only had Canadian money because I didn't have time to convert, and I was like, I'll pay you $20 to take me to this place. And he drove me about a block and a half, and the meter said like $2.50. And I was like, well, here, I promise you $20, here, have $20. I ran into the theater, and everyone was clapping because the orchestra had just come in, and then like I was literally standing, they were all standing, and then I came in standing. I don't know how this works. And then we all sat down and they started. So it was kind of perfect timing. I didn't miss anything. And I paid, it was like $100 for the show, and then it was another $100 just to meet the guy. But he is kind of a video game music celebrity, which really doesn't mean anything, but he's one of the few. And he gave me this autograph, and the two things you would get from lining up, it seemed, was an autograph, and then you get your photo taken with him. And to me, I don't know, I'm still really not a big posterity guy, so I didn't get a photo taken. I figured I would get an autograph just because it only takes a couple seconds, but instead of the photo, I said, could I ask him a question? And he doesn't really speak English, so there's this like Japanese guy who kind of looked a little bit more, or a little less Japan, I don't know. It was kind of like his bodyguard dude, or I assumed he was a translator, and I asked him, I was like, hey, could you translate a question for me? And he's like, well, I don't really speak that good English, but I could try. I'm not his translator. So I asked him, what was the question I asked him? I asked him, right, so Nobuo used to work exclusively for this one company that made the Final Fantasy games. And it's very different how soundtracks are made in Japan compared to how they're made in the Western Hemisphere. In the Western Hemisphere, the whole idea is that you can outsource. You can pick anyone from within the whole Western Hemisphere and just say, through email or contact electronically, and say, we want a soundtrack for this game. The pros are, I mean, you can get anyone. You can get any style of composer you think fits your game, and you can kind of just pick and choose, and a lot of people can fight over writing your soundtrack. But in the Eastern Hemisphere, the way it's done is, actually, the composers work for a company, and they actually work with the game designers. They work at the studio, whereas, you know, the Western Hemisphere, which is where I work, you never even see the soundtrack composer. He's just some dude somewhere. He sends you stuff, you don't even know what he looks like, really. Whereas in Japan, you know, the game design and audio design actually work together really closely, and I think that really reflects on the quality of how those two disciplines interact in their games. But at one point, Nobuo kind of left Squaresoft, which is the company, but he still did some soundtracks for them, but he didn't live at the studio and work with the game designers anymore, which I think was probably really good for helping the music fit the game. So I asked him, you know, how much harder is that to not work with game designers and to instead be in your own studio, you know, thousands of kilometers away, and to just send the music, receive feedback, send music. Unfortunately, I guess that's not a very good question, so his answer was, oh yeah, you're right, it's actually really difficult. And that was that. So anyways, I'm probably running into like a 10-minute barrier, and it's really easier if I just stop. It's about 1:30 in the morning, and I'm definitely not going to sleep for another, probably won't even sleep before I go to work. Maybe I'll sleep a couple hours. But there's a lot of stuff to unpack and a lot of stories to bring up. So I'm just gonna hit pause. I'll be back in about 30 seconds.